Eva, you've been working in the retirement planning space for a long time now, and
That's
you've run
right.
some very successful workshops and seminars in Australia and in New Zealand.
That's right.
And we've known each other for quite some time now, and I've always
Yes.
respected the work that you do. So I wonder if you could just start by talking about your own transition, for you and your husband into retirement, because I know you very much speak from personal experience in your seminars. So tell us how it was for you personally.
Well, it all happened about 16 years ago when we were both 60. And when we retired, it actually was quite an easy transfer for us because we both have always had other interests during our working life and belonged to clubs and walking groups and playing games and different things like that. So that it was quite easy to sort of look for new groups to join when we moved to a new town and a way to socialise with people. And I know some people who have focused totally on their work the whole time and nothing else, they found retirement much harder because suddenly they
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, what am I going to do now? So I think if you have interests all through your life besides just work, retirement is much easier to move into.
Yeah, so you could just transition into it slowly and sort of cut
Yes,
back on your work hours and increase the other things that you
yes,
enjoy doing.
yes.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
found time and time again in my presentations, the people who had no interest during their work life always found it harder to transition.
Yeah, right. That's a very good advice, and I know you've put some of your thoughts into some books. Just to share your wisdom. Would you like to tell us about those?
Yeah, well, after we retired, I never dreamt I'd ever write books, but a year later, I actually started writing a book called So What Do We Do Now? The Baby Boomer's Guide to Retirement. And being a baby boomer myself, born in 1946, I thought this age group, back to people who are 61 today, would be really helpful. So everything about my first book was really helping, suggesting to people how to enjoy their retirement. And I created a presentation called the 6 ingredients to cook up a great life in retirement, which
Mm-hmm.
matched the book and that worked really well. And I thought that was it. I did lots of presentations. 6 years later, people were saying, when are you going to write another book? When are you going to write another book? So I wrote a second book, which 9 years ago was called As Time Goes By, Dealing with Life Changes. And, you never know what's going to change in your life, especially now with COVID changing our lives. And
Absolutely.
I've just had that reprinted into Dealing with Life's Changes. And that book has been very successful too with explaining to people how your mental health's very important. It's a book too that can be read by a lot of different people, retirees, young people, people still at work. So, yes, it's got a lot of good features in it too.
Because change is always there, isn't it? No matter what stage of life you're at, there are
Oh,
changes.
exactly. And how you deal with it is a big influence. And I created a talk for that book called Fitness for Life to make people aware how our mental health has such a big impact on our physical health and all our other areas of health, emotional health, social health.
Mm.
So, and
Right.
then I had a lot of people say to me, those two books are so easy to read and understand and follow the advice you give. So
Yes,
I've
and I
sort
would
of made it
endorse
a
that.
career.
You have very simple, practical advice, and I've certainly used your books in my financial planning practice
Mm.
extensively. So a number of people have found those really useful. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about your two presentations now. So let's start with the cooking up a great life. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more about that and your key points.
Well, it just sort of came to me bit by bit, but it became a circle of the 6 ingredients. And each of the words in the cycle starts with F, and then on the outside it is a food ingredient that matches it. And in a presentation, I would bring up one of those at a time. So there was finance, which is always a big one, and I connected that with eggs. Focus, just what's your purpose for the rest of your life? That matched with spice. Then there was fitness, and that showed really how our mental health affected our physical health. In fact, they say that 80% of the way we think affects our health. So if our mental health is constantly worrying and stressed, then our physical health suffers. So it's really important to understand that. And I created a little saying, catch your thoughts, change your life. So
So
that
true. Yeah.
friendship was the next one. The milk of human kindness. So milk was the ingredient. Then fun, enjoy retirement, and that connects with the food sugar, sweeten your life. And then the last one was the freedom, the icing on the cake. You know, when you follow the other ingredients, you start just to enjoy life. Retirement doesn't have to feel like you're living in a little shell, unhappy. And the big thing is, some people are absolutely scared to spend any of their money, any of their finance, and they can't enjoy any of those other ingredients. So it's getting a balance between how you use your finance wisely, but still be able to enjoy life.
Sounds like
And
a
then,
great recipe, is it? And it is all about balance, isn't it? It's just like making a cake. You have to get
yeah,
everything in the right proportion, or else it doesn't quite turn out right.
exactly. It's exactly like making a cake that you get it right. And then the one that I did with the second book, which I called Fitness for Life, it just talks about, it puts mental health at the beginning. So many people focus on their physical health, go out to the gym and that, which is important, but how important your mental health is, because that affects straight away how you feel, and then that will affect your physical health and then your social health. So once people see the order of those 4 levels of fitness, they get a better understanding that, how important they all are and how they interact on each other. And it's
Yes, and
something
that transition into retirement is one that can have a huge impact on your mental health,
exactly.
because it's a
Yeah,
whole loss of identity and purpose,
yeah.
isn't it?
Well, that's why with mental health, I created that saying, catch your thoughts, change your life, especially when research shows that 80% of our illnesses come from how we think. So I practice that every day. And one of the things to help you have a healthier mental life is every day, what am I thankful for today in my life? And if
Yeah.
people get too obsessed with what's not working, that's where the problems are. It's to catch your thoughts, think to yourself, in the big picture, how important is this thing I'm focusing on all the time? What can I do about it? Some people I've met 5 years later are still obsessed with the issue at a stressful level. So I make a practice of practicing what I preach, and every
Yeah.
day trying to be thankful for something that is good in my life. And if there is an issue, what am I going to do about it? And
Well, that's really good advice. So, if you're talking to someone who's on the point of transitioning into retirement, are there sort of one or two really key messages that you'd like them to know about at that point in their lives?
I think I think I had a friend who died of motor neurone disease a few years ago. There's no cure for it. And she said, what good is wealth if you don't have your health? You know, so to tell people that, yes, like make sure you have enough money and that you spend it carefully and all that, but don't stop yourself from doing things that are really going to make your life more interesting and enjoyable. And I think that's the thing, is not to get obsessed with that you've got to just keep all your money in the bank all the time and live frugally, which some people do. And I've had people come to me after a presentation and say that I got them thinking differently about it. So um, and some people overspend. They may have never gone caravanning in their lives, and they rush out at retirement and buy a big flash caravan, and after a while find they hate the way they're living together on a caravan and travelling.
Mm.
And the idea is, okay, if you're interested in caravanning, before you rush out and buy it, hire one. So getting a balance of not overspending and not being
Mm.
prepared to spend it all is to, different ways you can deal with it. So,
Yes, I think it's about finding the things that give you the greatest pleasure, isn't it?
yes.
And prioritising your money
Yeah.
to spend it on those things that do
Yeah.
give the most enjoyment and pleasure and satisfaction.
There is a caravanning business in Brisbane that does very well. I've heard a couple of stories over the years. Someone in Melbourne or somewhere rushed out and bought a big flash caravan. They'd never been out before. By the time they travelled from Melbourne up towards Brisbane and they saw that they still had to go all the way over to Northern Territory and down WA, and they weren't getting on, they just took it to a yard and sold it and flew home. Now, they would have been better off to have rented a caravan at first, hired one, and just found, did it really suit their lifestyle? And
Yeah,
if it
that's right.
worked really well, then they could have bought it.
Yeah, try before you buy.
Yeah. Or there's people who leave where they've been living and they go and buy into some area or a great big house that they don't really need. And so it is the big thing of the contrast, not rushing into spending heaps of money, but then at the same time not holding back with everything, So, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's very sound advice.
balance.
Hey, look, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, Eva. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we'll be hearing more from you a bit later on. So, yeah, keep up the good work. And yeah, I think what you say is absolutely spot on for those people who are just looking at that transition. Getting there, making sure they've got enough interests and activities to fill up their time in retirement, and to be thinking really carefully about how they spend their money, when they spend it, and to make sure it's being spent on the things that are of value to them. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you another day.
Thank you.